Oh, she did? Nice.
Yeah. Oh, we're live.
Are we on?
Oh, your face is not on, Danielle.
How do I
You make an adjustment. There we go.
There we go.
Wait till Joey gets on and I'm going to say, Danielle beat you on. You're still kind of not in the picture.
I don't know what to do. You got to scoot that
Hi,
way.
Ellen. This way. Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Hi, Jennifer.
Ellen, Jennifer, Teresa, Joey.
Danielle beat you on.
I beat you.
Hi, Lori. Hey, look, Zach's on.
Zachary Valino. Oh, it's been so
I
long.
love it. How is everybody? Hi, Teresa. I haven't seen you in forever. Her son plays football with Wade. Happy Hump Day. If you're in
Slide
Nashville.
over, goof. Okay.
Who said that?
Joey. Are we still not centered?
No,
okay.
better.
Are we better?
You're supposed to be the expert here.
I don't know. I don't go live. I'm in front of the camera, but someone else is holding the camera and following me around because I move on. So where do you look?
I'm
For
here. I mean, I'm
Okay.
always bad. I always look at myself, but
Okay.
here.
Okay.
Hi, going live 101. Hi,
Okay.
Kelly. Like, there's Kelly. Wade, Kelly.
Oh, Kelly.
Kelly, you're Kelly.
The
You're-
cool half of
you
Wade and Kelly.
Mhm. Well, guys, I'm super excited you're on. If you're in Nashville, go Preds.
Go
You know,
Preds.
how do you say, you don't say kick off, puck off? What is it called? What's it called
I
in
have no
hockey?
idea. Actually, I was going to try to make fun of you for
Puck
saying
drop.
that.
Puck drop.
Puck drop.
Yeah.
That's it.
At 8:30, so we're going to make sure that we're done by then for all our Nashville followers. And Danielle is nice enough. Her husband's going to record it and not watch it until she gets back. We'll see about that.
Yeah, we'll see.
I'm not convinced.
I have a feeling I'm going to get there and he's going to have some insight on what's going on in the game, but we'll see.
If you're not in Nashville, the Preds are our hockey team, and the first night of playoffs is tonight. So I bet they have some fear going on right now.
Oh,
You like how I tied
could you
that in?
imagine? They did. No, that was good. That was a nice little tie. I like that. Little bow. Good.
So as you guys know, my Get Curious workshop's coming up May 5th. And so I wanted to really tie in these next couple of lives into that workshop. And fear, we've talked about a little bit before, but it's obviously a part of our lives all the time. And I've dealt with quite a bit of it, and I know Danielle has too. And she just got here a little bit ago, and I said, I talked to her, asked her a few questions, and I was like, I know what I would say for you and your fears, but I wanted to hear what she said. So
was it dead on
it
to
was,
what you were going to say?
mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
She knows
So
me.
I do, yeah. So I'm excited to talk about that. And when I said in my post to get curious about our fears, I really meant that, because the more we are aware of where our fears come from, we're able to manage them and make decisions into our fear and do it anyway, even though we're fearful. So y'all have heard my story before, but one of the ways I've tackled my fears is how I met Danielle. And I'd moved to Nashville. I was I've probably been here a few months, and I started going to a church, and they were asking for people to be host of groups. And I was new in my faith. I was always a believer, but I didn't really know what that meant. So, but they said, look, you don't have to know anything about, you don't have to know all scripture. You don't have to know the Bible inside and out. You just have to be able to have it at your house, host like-minded people, in my case, women, and open a bag of pretzels, I think you always said. And I was like, well, I can do that. But I was scared to death, you guys, because I'm like, I don't know scripture very well at all. And what about when I have to pray? I prayed by myself. That sounds silly, but I was afraid to have to pray in front of other.
Public praying is scary.
Especially when I was afraid of being in a group with other women that were much more knowledgeable about scripture and just about their faith, that it even made it more intimidating for me. So I was very scared to do this, and I had selfish motivation to host a group because I wanted women to come that I was hoping would help me, because I was in a place where I was very fragile, very scared, very alone, and I thought, well, maybe I'll meet some women that can help me through this season of my life. Well, if you've heard my story, you've heard me say that what God brought me was a bunch of Danielles. And it was pretty.
Which is awesome.
It was. They were all these young girls. Most of them were, I would say Danielle and I were the least savvy in our faith as far as knowing scripture. Of all I think we had 15, maybe 18 girls, not that would come and go. And I would say the two of us were the least.
Oh, they knew their stuff.
They did. They could recite. Pat, I still know my couple of verses that you taught me when I was a little girl. I can still do them like this. Pat used to help us read, or teach us to read scripture when we were little. So anyway, but that was, so I did it. And that was a huge step in fear, even though it sounds maybe a little petty in this moment, but I was scared to host it. I was scared that I wouldn't know what I was talking about. Then I had to pray in front of all these people, but it was a life-changing decision for me, because it not only brought me Danielle, the domino of things that happened after that all started with that decision, honestly. So that's how I got to know Danielle. We clicked very quickly. We unfortunately had one thing in common, or lots of things in common, but one tragic thing in common is I had lost my sister and she had lost her brother, both very tragically. So obviously we were able to share and bond over that as well. As sad and hard as it was, it certainly brought us, I think, even closer through that connection of being able to talk about how that felt. And that in and of itself, you guys, is also another fear that wasn't something that we chose. That was a fear that was put on us, and dealing with the aftermath of losing someone you love, a sister or a brother, is a whole nother discussion, but one we'll talk about a little bit too with Danielle. So what are some of the most common fears?
I think for me at this point, fear of rejection is a big thing always, wanting something and then being told no. I've dealt with that my entire life throughout my career. And I think, a major thing for me now, and it's a byproduct of losing my brother, is a fear of loss. It affects everything about my life. I mean, it's changed everything about my life. I live my life in fear that something bad is going to happen at any given moment. Sometimes to the point where I jump when my phone rings and it's a number that I don't recognize,
Certainly fear of failure is a huge one for many people. Fear of disappointment. Something that Carmen, I don't think she's on here, but Carmen said today in a post, and I was like, that's so true, is the fear of the unknown. Oh, there's Carmen. I'm just talking about you.
Hey, Carmen.
That, and when I was going through all of my, I'll call it junk, I remember saying many, many times, I just need to know. And once I know, I can deal with it. Because there was about a 2-year period where everything in my life was unknown, except for the health of my kids, thank goodness. And that was the biggest thing. But where I was going to live, where I was going to get money, what was happening with my husband at the time, everything. And I remember saying over and over, I just need to know what it is, as bad as it may be, and I'll be okay, because then I can handle it. So it was in that time of the unknown.
The transition period was petrifying
awful.
For me.
It was awful. And Carmen, you mentioned that today. And that's when our faith really, and she's been doing something recently, which I won't go into right now, but I was like, dig into your faith. And it's easy to say, but it's so hard when things aren't playing out how you want them to, or you just have no idea what's happening. And your life's kind of stopped and hesitated, because you don't know what's going to happen, and it's out of your control. It's different when it's something you can take control of. You can take a step. It's different when it's completely out of your control, and that's when you really have to dig into. Hopefully, if you have a faith, that's where you have to really rely on God to give you your strength in that time. So fear of the unknown, fear of looking dumb. My first live was like, oh my God.
I remember that. She was freaking out, y'all, freaking out. And I mean, here's the thing, I know her, I feel better than a lot of people know her. So I could tell watching the live that she was uncomfortable, but nobody else would have ever known. And I'm telling you, this girl was back here, sweating. And then afterwards, she's like, how was it? Was it okay? Oh, it was bad. I could have done this, but I'm like, dude, it was awesome. It
fear
was so
of looking
great.
silly, fear of looking stupid, fear of disappointment, fear of letting people down, all those, so many different fears. And I was reading an article today, you guys, and it said that in our culture, letting fear run the show, run our lives, takes the wheel of our decision making, which is kind of interesting. It will either prevent us from making a decision at all because we're afraid, or we'll make the wrong one out of fear. But it also said our culture disguises fear as stress. And if you think about, start thinking about, okay, what are we stressed about? And I thought, oh my God, it is almost about fear when we're stressed. Stress because are we going to be able to get that new job? We're going to make a decision to leave our old job and go get a new job. That's stress, right? That's really fear.
So
fear of you're in a bad relationship and you're 35 years old and you don't have any kids and you know in your gut that this is not the right person for you.
Fear of being alone.
But you're afraid of being alone. You're afraid of starting over, especially when you're older like that. Because you're like, oh my gosh, maybe this is as good as it's going to get, or I'm going to leave him because that's what my gut's saying. But I'm 35 and now I have to start all over. And what if I can't have kids because I'm too old? And that has happened to a lot of people in my life. And that is scary. And so you stay in mediocrity. You stay in a job you don't love. You stay in a relationship that you know is the wrong one. You stay in situations because you're afraid of the unknown. You're afraid of it won't be any better than it is now. And that can paralyze us. So that was when I read that, but we disguise it as stress oftentimes. And I was telling Danielle, I read in the same article, quote, she said, this culture uses stress as a badge of honor. And think about that. How many times have you guys said, oh my God, I'm so stressed. And you're talking about it to your friends. My life is so stressed right now.
Kind of glorify it a little bit, or use it as an excuse for
not really doing what you need to be doing. And I know that I've been guilty of that many times. So I'm not judging anyone because I know that I have done that.
I probably did that today. I probably did that today.
Yeah. So
at some point.
So I'm going to kind of dive into some things with Danielle right now. But one thing that I want to talk about, one thing I want you to have a takeaway when we're done with our discussion today is what I've learned is fear isn't something that we should be ashamed of. And I think fear is, it encompasses in all of us. So I strongly believe that, and I've learned this, that we need to embrace our fear in order to have an opportunity to heal and be free. Because oftentimes our fears stem from something a long time ago. And if we don't get curious about that fear, guys, and where it comes from, we're never really truly going to be free because we're not going to heal. So I hope that if you get any takeaway from this, that you will start to really try to understand yourself and understand where your fears come from and walk into them, do it anyway, because my life has changed dramatically because I walked into my fear. I knew I was afraid and I did it anyway. So Danielle and I were talking before we came on live about some of the things that she's faced in her life and what are some of the biggest fears that she's had. And so I want to have her talk about that again, and we'll have an open discussion. If you guys have any questions, I'll make sure I read the comments, but talk about some of the biggest fears. And the first one she said is the very first one I thought you would say, because I know her story. Let's talk about that.
Moving to Nashville was a major fear for me. I grew up in a small town in Florida. I basically, from when I was old enough to make memories, I lived there my whole life. I kind of said, all throughout my childhood, like, I want to move to Nashville and I want to pursue music, but I really had no idea what I was getting myself into. So I think that, making the decision at 18 years old to pack up my car 2 weeks after I graduated high school and move to Nashville and pursue this dream that I had absolutely no map on how I was going to get to from point A to point B. I was just going to go and figure it out. I had no friends here. I had no family here. I had no connections. I had no job. I worked 3 jobs through high school to save up money so that I had a little bit of a cushion for the first couple months while I was in Nashville to kind of get my way through. And I was petrified. And then I think once I got here, I was afraid that I wasn't going to be able to stick it out because, the first 6 months were rough. Like, it was hard.
I said something to you about, I think I asked you what made you do it, and I loved what you said. Do you remember?
Yeah, my goals and my dreams were bigger than my fears. My fears were big. I mean, they were massive. It was really, really scary, but
I mean, let's say that again.
My goals and my dreams were bigger than my fears.
What's Oprah call that? It's a tweetable moment.
Tweetable moment.
Something
hashtag
like
moment.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because think about that. That's huge. It's a big statement. Your goals and your dreams were bigger than your fears. And that's when you got to take a step and take action. So then what was another fear you mentioned?
I feared getting here and not being able to stick it out and
disappointing
people or having people judge me because I went running back home after, it was kind of like, oh, she's going to Nashville and she's doing that. What is she thinking? I was afraid of what people were going to think about me if I came here and I didn't make something of myself. Like, what if I came here and I did it? I finally made the big move, but then what? Like, then what do I do if the rest doesn't fall into place? And
one thing about that experience for you, Danielle, and it's not always that way, is that you had to face that fear over and over over and over, because it wasn't like it's a fear of something. You make a decision, you go interview for that job, you quit your other job, and okay, now that fear's done. Okay, on to the next one. This is a situation, which I'm sure a lot of you guys have been in something similar. She had to face it over. And then she talked about earlier with me about getting rejected, because there's a lot of rejection in a lot of businesses, especially in the music business. And so then there's another fear of, okay, I got rejected, and now I'm going to try and do it again. And then I'm going to get rejected again, but I'm going to stay in it. And so that's why I made a comment about that. You're one of the strongest people I know, not just because of that, but it was just over and over and over again. And you loved it, and you're like, this is my dream, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to see where it takes me. And you've been here for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, there were many moments, throughout my journey in Nashville where things were so close. Like I was right on the brink. And I mean, I don't even know if any of you guys know this, but at one point I was on a television show, and it was a national TV show that was a talent competition. And I came in third place. I was the last female standing. And I had my 6 months where I couldn't walk into a Starbucks without people coming up to me and asking for a picture. And I thought, I mean, in that moment, I was like, I have almost made it. I have made it. This is it. Somebody's going to sign me and I'm going to blow up. And then it was 8 months later, I was waitressing. Yeah. Because things didn't happen the way that I thought they were going to. But, again, for me, continuing to get doors shut in my face was not anything that was scarier than the joy that I would feel if I actually got what I wanted, and I think this is a whole nother subject, but just to circle it back around, I'm not selling out arenas. You guys know that. I'm hanging out with this girl, teaching kickboxing and doing life with y'all. And I wouldn't trade it for the world, because you want to know what? Me coming to Nashville, even though I haven't gotten to where I want to get in my career yet, I met my husband here. My entire life has changed because I stuck that out. Mm-hmm. And it was for a different reason.
You met me?
Yeah, I met you. I've made some of the greatest friends that have genuinely turned into family to me. And none of that would have happened if I didn't face a completely different fear, and allow God to throw these other amazing things in my lap.
Yeah. And like I said, we both had the fear of losing a very close, her brother, and I lost my sister tragically. And like I said, that brought about fear. And you talked about that before. So kind of go into what you said about that. When you lose someone like that, obviously it's devastation because you're going to miss them. They're in a better place. Her brother and my sister are both, in heaven. Probably, maybe they're with each other right now.
I bet they're hanging out right now.
Yeah, but there's a fear for those of us that are left behind, especially when you're so close to that person. And so talk a little bit about that fear.
I mean, it's changed all my relationships, but I would say it's had the greatest impact on my marriage, and I lost my brother before I ever met my husband. But I think I was so fearful of caring about someone again, to that extent, ever loving someone like they could be my family. When you marry someone, they're your family. And for me to allow somebody into that bubble of mine after the pain that I felt losing my brother and knowing that that was a completely uncontrollable situation, I was petrified. I was shutting myself off a lot of times when, my heart wanted to open up. I wasn't allowing it. And, I was kind of pushing back. And then I think, there were multiple times that I lashed out at him, and it was for things that were completely unrelated to what he was doing. For instance, he had football practice and he told me he was going to be home at 8:30, and 8:45 rolled around and he wasn't home, and he hadn't called me, and I was calling him, and he has his phone, hey, what's going on? And I'm like, where are you? What is going on? And to him, he's thinking that I'm trying to keep tabs on him, and I'm, but to me, I'm just petrified that something's happened to him. And that's all I'm thinking about, And so I think that one thing that I've learned through those fears and through a lot of talking with this one, because she's kind of helped me, navigate my way through those fears. I've learned that communication is the key, because now, now that he knows where that comes from, he's a lot more, attentive to that.
I was telling her, part of being aware of ourselves, and in this case, fear, we're talking about fear, she was able to communicate to him, look, I have this fear of something terrible happening, especially to someone that I love so deeply. And she's working through that, because that's not a healthy place to be. And I'm that way. I'm much better now, but I was that way for a very long time. But because she could say that to him, because he had compassion for that, he knows he travels a lot for work. So he knows I need to be in constant communication with Danielle. And if she didn't have that awareness, you guys, and then couldn't communicate that to him, and he didn't have compassion for it, to him, she would be a nag.
Oh yeah.
It'd be nag and nag and nag, and then that would cause resentment, and there'd be problems in the marriage. So that's how important it is to really understand yourself. That's why I preach personal development so much, is really understanding where something comes from, what the trigger is, and then not just with your husband or wife, but with your close friends and even your, we spend a lot of time at work. So how about your coworkers? That understanding yourself so that you can help other people understand you is huge in your life and in your relationships, especially in a marriage or a partnership. So I love that she's able, and again, she needs to work through that too. It's not like it's a past for you to live in fear, and she doesn't. But and I had a lot of that fear too. But I could say, okay, I'm still scared of this, but I'm gonna do it anyway. And the more it builds away and comes back and travels and comes back, the more you start to build not that trust in him, but the trust in your faith, and really going, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. I'm gonna do it anyway. So that, but we both had that same fear of when you lose someone, like, okay, what's gonna happen next? Right. And especially when you love someone. And I was saying in my little live, I think it was yesterday, talking to one of my members, that she took a huge risk to love like that again. But what if she didn't? She wouldn't be with Bill. Her life wouldn't be where it is.
It'd be completely different.
So yes, there is a risk.
But there is a much, much greater reward, because there is honestly tragedy could strike tomorrow and I would not regret for 1 second. Not for 1 second.
Because what if you never had it? What if you never experienced the high of it, the joy of it? That would be a true tragedy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So any other fears that come to mind before we jump into some of the other things I have?
Oh my gosh, there's always a laundry list of fears, but
daily. Some bigger than others.
Yeah.
But even I think coming to work for me, that was that was necessarily fear, but it was kind of diversion from what
y'all, the first time I ever taught a class. Okay, so I'm a performer. I'm on stage all the time. That's what I do. And even though I knew absolute jack about kickboxing, she hired me because she had faith that I would be able to at least fake my way through it, right? And you would have thought, for the first 3 weeks, I didn't even teach class. We were there, and I remember we kept making a couple of the other girls teach classes, and I was just kind of doing a lot of the fitness assessments and getting to know our potential members.
Which is why I hired.
Yeah. I was doing the shaking hands, kissing babies, mingling, getting to know everybody, because that's just where I'm at home. But my first class, I thought I was going to throw up. I was so nervous. And now I literally could do it in my sleep.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't trade
probably
it.
do.
I probably do.
Listen, starting my own business, you guys, talk about fear.
Oh my gosh. I remember.
Not only was it just because it was something new, but I put all my investment into it, and so I also have the fear if this doesn't work out, I'm in big trouble.
Oh yeah.
So that was a big risk, and boy, am I glad I did it. And I just talked through myself, which we're going to talk about in a minute. Okay, what's the worst thing that can happen here? What's the worst thing that can happen here? And is it worth it? And I did it, and it has been not only changed my life. I think I've changed a few other people's lives.
Oh my gosh,
too,
are you kidding? This woman has started a movement.
Yeah, and I've told, we just moved. I'm in my new house, for those of you that watch me on a regular basis. But I've moved since 2010. I think I said 5 times. So talk about moving. I moved from Florida to Texas. We did know my brother-in-laws lived there, so I didn't know anybody. But then I moved from there to here, started my kids in new schools, didn't know anybody, had a pretty different, awkward backstory, which was not easy to share. So I think I kind of lived in the uncomfortable zone of my life for about 6 years straight.
Well, and I just want to interject there. I was friends with her for probably 7 or 8 months, maybe a little bit longer, before she ever told me anything about her backstory. She never told me. I knew that she had a husband, but I didn't know who he was, where he was. I just knew he was never there when I was over. And for some reason, I didn't dig. I just felt like whenever it came up, she just got kind of awkward, and I could tell that she felt uncomfortable, probably because she was fearful of what I would think about the situation. And she didn't. So I, like, you not only, you know, having to work your way through sharing that with your close friends and like, you know, a small intimate setting, like for you to blast that and tell everyone, like tell all of our members and tell everybody that watches your Hash Out with Heather, like that's a huge fear that I feel like you completely overcame. And now it's, you know, you have just through working through that, like you've just gotten used to being open and honest about it, and you've helped people
because
feel more comfortable. Yeah.
I think I learned, I never talked about it. Then when I started sharing it, people would say, oh my gosh, me too. And not me too, that they went through the same circumstance, but me too. And I feel the same way. I'm scared. I'm alone. I'm afraid to do this. And I realized the more I shared, the more community and connection I was creating with other people. And that's what I longed for the most when I was going through everything. Was I just wanted someone to tell me it was going to be okay, because they had been through something similar, and longed for that, long for that connection. So now I'm finding that through my sharing of my story and sharing of my experiences, that I am helping bringing women together. And actually Dee Dee said one time, she goes, Heather, one of your biggest strengths is that you're able to bring people together. And it's because I know how important it is to me. So, and I want to do that. It brings me joy to bring people together that can uplift each other. And that's why I'm so passionate about Hash Out with Heather and really wanting to grow it, is because I know the more we're together as a group, the more we uplift each other, the better not only we'll be, but the better everyone around us will be. And I think it's just a movement that I want to be a part of.
Well, and I think that is just another reason why, you know, for instance, like your workshops are so important and they're so special, because like you and I had an instant connection over you losing your sister and me losing my brother, though it was to two completely separate tragedies at two completely separate times. And you and I were at very different parts of our healing process. All of a sudden, this person had come into my life that was different than everybody else that was in my life, because finally somebody understood. You know, it's different when you're talking about your life and you're having conversations with people that give their opinions, though they've never experienced the same thing. And then all of a sudden you have somebody that has experienced the same thing, and your workshops there's a comfort in that. And your workshops are an opportunity for even if you are, you know, further along in your healing process than the person sitting next to you, you are now like giving that person hope. Like you're now giving someone an opportunity to look at where you're at and you're grieving and you're overcoming your fears and say, I can do that too. You know?
And it's, as with someone today, I think she's still on here, and we were talking about this, that, you know, we shouldn't hide behind our fears. We shouldn't hide behind our stories. We shouldn't hide behind our struggles, because that it's in that we find our own freedom, but you're helping other people. Somebody else needs to hear that from you. And I talk about my workshops. People say, you know, I'm really in a good place. I'm so glad you do those, but they're not for me. And I'm like, but your story might help the person sitting next to you. We do breakout sessions at my workshops, and I'm not promoting my workshops, I'm promoting you do something. You don't know what your words might do to somebody else's life, or your story might completely change somebody else's life.
So true.
Because they instantly feel a connection, or you're further along, you've gotten through it. Like in my case, and other women can go, okay, I'm gonna be okay. I've seen it live out in Heather's life. I know I can be okay too. So there's such power in sharing all parts of our life, but especially our fears, and not trying to be these invincible, strong, you know, that's very vulnerable to share things that you're afraid of. But you guys, we're human. I mean, we're real. That's real. So we don't have to always be these, we got this. We don't have to always be that way.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's a time and place for all that, you know, tough guy stuff. And I just think that when it comes down to the nitty gritty and it's like getting real, you know, you grow in discomfort. And
I think that the strength is in your vulnerability. I honestly believe you're more courageous and stronger in your vulnerability. And it's less selfish because you're helping somebody else, even when you don't know it. And I was doing some reading today, and it talked about how do you know when fear is controlling your life? And it had some really good points, a couple of which I was like, oh, damn, that's me. But one, it said, you're always striving for perfection. And if any of these sound like you, give me a little heart. And we're going to wrap this up because I know the prez is about to start. But you're always, and you hide your fear behind your drive for perfection. I got to be perfect at everything. I got to get this. I got to get that. I'm going to get straight A's. I'm going to get the best at my job. I'm going to get the black belt if you're doing karate. I'm going to, my house is going to look perfect. I'm going to have the best job. I'm going to be the top performer at my job. I'm going to do the best grades at school. And you're really masking. That's really, not that you shouldn't strive to be your best, because I preach that all the time. But you know what I'm talking about when you hide behind perfection, that there's really a fear underneath there, a fear of intimacy, fear of being accepted, of who you are if you're not perfect. And oftentimes, I would say most times, there's some association to that need to be perfect back to your childhood. You're probably trying to get a parent's love. And so you try to be perfect to try to get attention from one of your parents, is maybe a situation that you were in. But that's typically a fear that's controlling your life if you're striving for perfection all the time. Look at all the hearts.
Lots of hearts.
Here's one that hit me. When you settle, when you are afraid to take risks and go for what you really want, you convince yourself that your life is okay and that you're okay with mediocrity. You may not even use that word. You may just say, yeah, my life's not bad. This is good. My job's okay. Yeah, it's good. Yeah. You're in a relationship that you know you shouldn't be in, even a marriage that you know you shouldn't be in. And we convince ourselves that that's the way it should be, that this is okay because we're afraid. So we settle. We settle for that job. We settle for that marriage. We settle for that friendship. And that's almost always fear behind that. Hi, Anita. Good to see some of y'all jumping on. Hey, Whitney and Cindy jumped on too. Kendall. Okay, another one. When fear runs the show, you forget how to dream, or you're too scared to dream.
That's a good one.
And I think someone said, what is Hashtag with Heather? What are you really trying to do? And I said, I want to help women believe that they are worthy of dreaming. Not even like, let's go figure out the dream. I want to help us all believe that we're worthy of it, that we deserve to dream. We deserve to have that life. And I think that's kind of the missing link, is that we're even like, I know I was too afraid to even think that I could ever have this life. So fear can shut that down. You say yes when you mean no. That can also mean fear is controlling your life. And what I mean by that, if you're afraid to disappoint someone or they ask you to do something, you're a people pleaser. How many of you guys are people pleasers? So you say yes, even though you got other priorities, other things you should be doing. It's preventing you from doing something that you really want to do, or chase a dream, or make a decision to do something in your life you really want to do, because you're too busy trying to please everybody. So you say yes when you should say no. So that's a big one too. And a fear of rejection with that as well. Or you say no when you mean yes. So you say no to that new thing, that new adventure, because you're afraid to fail. You say no to take that first step into figuring out if you should start your own business because you're afraid to fail. You say no to doing dating sites like I did, and someone forced me to do them.
Anybody that talked to her on Bumble or whatever,
really
it was me. It was absolutely me.
She would be me on there because I was afraid. It's too much work for one thing, but guess what? That's even an excuse.
Joey's raising his
hand. To go out and date, especially when you're 45 and a mother of two. A ton of fear to put myself out there. And you women know what I mean too. Lots of shit had changed. I was like, oh Lord, you heard me say it again, like, oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
So lots of fear there too. So we'll say no when we really mean yes because we're afraid. We're afraid to fail. Guess what? We're afraid to succeed.
You're not boring me. I'm sorry. I'm just really
sorry, Preds game. She did work early.
I worked all day today, so.
You're afraid to stir things up. You're afraid of the unknown. Back to what Carmen said. You're afraid to get out of your comfort zone. So you just keep saying no. You numb yourself by drinking, drugs, working too much, busyness, shopping. That typically means there's some fear that's controlling your life. When you have to numb the pain or numb the feelings or try to numb the fear. And also procrastination. That is usually a huge indicator that fear is controlling your life, because you just procrastinate things away, or worse, you stay paralyzed. If any of these pop up to you guys, comment, or if anything screams out to you, Danielle. But I think definitely many of us live in a state of paralyzation because we're afraid. We're afraid of something bad happening. Mm-hmm. We're afraid of all the things I just mentioned earlier: failure, rejection, disappointment. So we do nothing. And even though, like I said before, and obviously this speaks to me, it's why I keep talking about it, the fear of staying in a relationship you shouldn't, or afraid of the uncertainty makes us do nothing. And that to me is worse.
Yeah. Well, I have always been a strong advocate of, you know, being lonely alone is far greater than being lonely with someone. Like, I just think that it's so easy sometimes to stay in a bad situation, but you're lonely, and all you're doing is preventing yourself from allowing someone to come into your life that will bring you true joy, you know, because you don't want to be lonely alone, but you're already lonely. You know what I mean?
Well, and then you're facing the fear of rejection every day, but the person that you're with, because you feel alone and you're feeling rejected every single day. That's a whole nother hashed out.
That's a whole nother
JoJo.
Carmen says lots of things change after 40.
Girl.
Not your dance moves. Your dance moves, they just get better. They're like wine.
But I had this quote today, which I loved. Here's another tweetable moment, if that's what Oprah said. What you will discover on the other side of fear is that uncertainty is the gateway to possibility. Damn. Preach. So what you will discover on the other side of fear is that uncertainty is the gateway to possibility. Another thing that you can tell that fear is in control, and this is me too, is you become a control freak. Definitely. Yes. Joey, don't make any comments here. But when you're afraid, you feel the need to micromanage. And I've had that in my life, but also in my business. When I start to feel like that we're maybe going in the wrong direction, my natural reaction is to jump in and micromanage because I'm afraid. So I can fix it. I can get there and fix it. And I've had to learn that that's not always the best business decision. And you have to have faith in ebb and flow of your business too. As long as you know that you're on the right trajectory, you're doing the right things, you have to have faith that it's going to play out the way it's sort of if you're doing all the right things. But there's definitely a fear. We want to control things when we have fear, controlling our lives. A lot of y'all clearly feel the same thing. But when you make the journey, I read this too, from fear to faith, that's when you can start to relax and you can surrender to the flow of life. And I was like, wow, can surrender to the flow of life. And that's, you guys, that takes daily work and awareness in order for you to surrender and really heal. And it's part of that's going to be very painful if you had junk in your life and in your past, but so freeing. And I've said this many times with my friend Amy, but she said, Heather, your fear is preventing you from the living that God intended for you. And I was like, oh my God. She goes, you've got to step into your fear because God has a big plan for your life. And until you surrender and walk into your fear, you're never going to know what that is.
And there is no greater feeling in the world than conquering a fear. Like, there's no better feeling. Like, there's no better
confidence,
feeling.
You're proud of yourself. And even the ones you guys, and then we'll wrap it up, I promise. Even the fears that you step into and don't work out how you want them, think about what you learned in that. And that can change that can detour your whole life in a better direction just from what you learned from a situation where you stepped into your fear and you took a risk and you took a chance. So even those times when I'm going to loosely say failures or mistakes, they're not. They're opportunities for you to grow if you look at them the right way. And that can have a huge impact on your life. And how I was telling Angie today that I mentioned earlier that all that I'm doing in trying to live my best life and wanting you guys to live your best life, the whole point of it is to be able to feed into other people. And that is where I feel the most joy, is when I know that I can serve other people in the way that God intended me to, and I can feed into other people, and I can help even one of you say, I'm so much stronger, and I don't just mean physically, I'm stronger mentally, and I have more confidence, and I'm actually doing something that I really want to do, and I'm getting this new job, or, when our members that come in so defeated, and within weeks, really, we see not just their physical change. I say all the time, I love y'all's physical change. I love so much more your mental confidence and emotional strength that you gain. And all that's because y'all took a step into your fear, even trying to come kickbox. So that's a big deal, especially for a lot of you that have never worked out before. So, but my biggest joy, the reason I want to do this, live my best life and help you, is so that we can feed into each other. And that's where I get the most joy. I know you do too. And that's why we love what we do, is when I get to help somebody else live their best life, it is incredibly rewarding. And that's what we're here for. I believe that's what we're here for. We're here for connection. We're here to help other people see the value in themselves and love themselves so that we can all make this world better. Sounds kind of cheesy, but that's the truth.
We are the world.
So just to wrap it up now, what do you do if we all know we have fear. First of all, be aware of it. So you have to really dig into yourselves and where the fear is coming from, and replacing your fear with gratitude. We talk about that a lot, and it's kind of cliche, but it really did. You can't be fearful and grateful at the same time. So we have to find gratefulness in our circumstances, even the ones that are really hard. And then like I said, being aware, getting curious about, why am I feeling this way? Where is this coming from? Is this really stress, or is it fear? Why am I doing this to my husband or my wife? Where is it coming from? Fear of abandonment, fear of loss, fear of, I got teased a ton as a child, or even abused. There's so many things that fear, and it can play out in so many different ways in your life, and not always obvious, and typically not obvious. Asking questions about your fear. Is this really a fear, or are you making it up? Is it a narrative in your head, or is it a true fear? Ask yourself, how much about what I'm thinking right now in this fear is really factual? It's almost always
Oh my
not.
gosh, I was just about to say,
it's almost always not.
It's always not. It's always this made up scenario. I'm fearful of something that does not exist.
So you need to ask yourself, what's true about this thought? What's not true about this thought? And that will start to create distance from your fear and reality. So asking questions to yourself, what's the worst thing that can happen? What's been a better question than that?
What?
What's the best thing that can happen?
Yeah.
We should be asking ourselves more of that. What is the best thing that can happen in this? And not always, what's the worst thing? You have to do both, but I think we ask ourselves, we immediately go to the fear, the negative side first. And, I also, acting quickly, I know that I will have a lot more anxiety and fear the more I sit in indecisiveness. And so, yes, sometimes I'll be the wrong one because you acted too quickly, but there's so much more anxiety and fear when you sit in it and let it stir. So I think I've really worked on making decisions quicker. Make them and move on, because I will get myself all worked up if I sit in this place of indecision for too long.
That's the worst place on the planet.
It is. And finally, I think to really conquer our fears and live our best life, you have to find your soul tribe.
Soul tribe.
You guys, Hash Out with Heather, your church communities, our kickboxing studios, we don't just kickbox there. It's a culture. It's a family. We need to surround ourselves with people that understand us and want to help us live our best lives, because they want to live their best life, and it becomes contagious, and then you gain momentum with each other. And you have to find people to do this with, to do your life with. It's not, it's so much harder to do it alone, and so much lonelier, you guys. So, I would love for this to be a platform that you come to and share and dive into your fears and ask questions and share with the person, if you want to share your story on here ever, or even private message. But in my workshops, we do so much of that.
Sorry.
Again.
Everything that you're saying is really entertaining. I just am really
clearly. But my workshop is a great place for us to share. And like I said, I'd love you guys to come. It's May 5th. The link is on Hash It Out on the top. And you can message me too if you want. And Danielle and I can sign you up as well. If you want to want to say here that I want to go, Heather, sign me up. We'd love to have you. It's so much fun. And I had Ruth, a member yesterday, say to me, Heather, I really, I was excited to come, and she's in the mental health business. And she said, I got so much more out of it than I ever thought I was going to get out of it, because that's her business. That's the industry that she's in. And it made me feel so good that she walked away pleasantly surprised and excited to come to the next one and excited to talk about it. And it's not because of me, you guys, it's because of the people that come and share. I'm just facilitating it. It's really about you guys and what you guys say and open up, and how you're willing to be vulnerable with each other. So thank you for that. I'd love you to be at the next one. We're gonna have lots of fun. Danielle and I will be there facilitating it. It'll be at Andrew's Cadillac here in Brentwood. But continue to comment, you guys. Share your fears. Thank you, Zach. I saw your fear of missing out. And it is funny, but it's true. It's a real fear. So I'd love you guys to fear. If anyone's had that same fear, let's talk about it. Let's share how we got through it. Like I said, being vulnerable is where the real strength is. So thanks for being on. I will see you back here soon. Go Preds. Thanks for being on, Danielle, my dear friend. I'm so glad she was here. First time on with me live.
I know.
All right, have a good night, you guys. Good
Bye,
Wednesday
guys.
and rest of your week. See you on the mat soon. Joey, sign me up.